Hello guys, so we're doing a video for section 1.9. This is question number 15. I picked this one because I wanted to go through the process of changing from general form to standard form. Because that's the hardest part of this section. Everything else is a little more straightforward. So when we're looking for standard form, we need our answer to look something like this, okay? This is kind of our goal. Okay, that's standard form. So what we have is this guy in general form. So there's a pretty similar setup for all of these when you are trying to convert these from general to standard. I kind of follow the same process every problem. So I put the x's together plus a blank, and I put the y's together plus a blank. I move any numbers, like the -1, I'll add to the other side so that it equals 1. And then I'll set up 2 blanks on this side because there were 2 blanks on this side. Now, if we were doing this problem and let's say there wasn't a -2y, let's say there was only the y squared, then I wouldn't need to do a blank for the y's. If it's just y squared, then it's just y squared, and this part would just be y squared. So sometimes you don't need 2 blanks. Sometimes you only need the 1 blank. But for this example, we're doing both. If you can hear my dogs in the background, they're drinking water, and it sounds weird, and I'm sorry. Maybe you can't hear that. I'm not sure. So what you do is you are going to do half of the middle number squared. Okay? Half of the middle number squared. So sometimes that can be nice numbers, but in this case, half of 9 is 4.5, and then 4.5 squared is 20.25. So it's not always nice. Oops. Facebook. 20.25. So it's not always nice numbers. Sometimes it is. Like this one, half of 2 is 1. 1 squared is still 1. So it's always half of the middle number squared. Half of the middle number squared. And what you add to the left side, you have to also add to the right side. Okay? So the next step, in order to get it to look like our standard form, is to factor. Okay, the next step is to factor. And the nice thing about what we did, and I'm going to do the y's first because they factor a little more nicely, is it will always factor into the same parentheses twice. So for this one, it ends up being y minus 1, y minus 1. It will always do that if you filled in the blank correctly. That's kind of the whole point. It's called completing the square. We're making this a perfect square trinomial so that it factors into the same parentheses squared, right? Because that's the format that we're looking for in our standard form. Now with our x's, since these numbers are a little uglier, it's a little harder to factor, but I'll show you a trick. The number in the parentheses is always half of that middle number. So you can double check me if you want, but I know this is going to be x plus 4.5 squared. And you can FOIL that out and check me, but it always ends up being half of that middle number. And then adding these together, we've got 22.25. So let's go ahead and add this over here. We have x plus 4.5 squared. Don't forget the squareds or it'll mess you up. Oops. Okay. Hold on. X plus 4.5 squared. Okay. Plus y minus 1 squared. It didn't say that I had to use fractions, so I'm hoping the decimal will be okay. It says simplify your answer, but it doesn't say I have to use fractions, so we will try it. Yes, okay, good. So that tells me the center is always the opposite of what's in our parentheses. The center is always the opposite. So in this case, it's negative 4.5, comma, positive 1. Okay, because here I have a positive 4.5, so this is a negative 4.5. My radius is the square root of 22.25. So let's clear that. We're going to do the square root. Oops, I hate this. I wonder if they want us to type it as square root of 22.25. See, sometimes you have to play with my math lab to make sure you see what they want. Okay, so I think this can be simplified. So, let's see. Okay, guys. Well, I'm definitely glad I picked this one to show you guys because it is a little tricky here at this step. I actually went to view an example to see what it is that I was having issues with. This view an example is so helpful, you guys. Like, I have no problem telling you guys to use this. So if you go to question help and view an example, it shows you a similar problem. And it's not that we don't know how to do this. Sometimes the issue is we don't know what format my math lab is looking for. And so if you scroll down to where it's talking about getting the radius, they want you to write that radius squared as a fraction and then square root it. So that's kind of our issue. So instead of doing the square root of 22.25, we're going to do the square root. It's 89 over 4. And I just did that in my calculator. Okay. So 22.25 is the same thing as 89 over 4. Right? I'll show you. All right, 22.25. So the reason they want you to do it that way is because with fractions, we can square root them individually. And the square root of 4 is doable. That's just 2. So they want the square root of 89 over 2. So even though what we typed as an answer was technically equivalent, right? Like this equals this, they're being very picky about how they want it formatted. And so that's why I even had to go to view an example to see how they wanted it. Like, I will be the first to tell you, my math lab can be difficult to work with. Like, I will admit that. So definitely use your question help up here to kind of work through it. So now if we try it, see, now they say nice work. Yay. Okay, so we have to pick the right circle. Our center was what? I don't remember. Negative 4.5, comma 1. So it's gone left 4.5 and up 1. So I think that's D. You can look at it closer if you need to. But going left 4.5 and up 1, it's going to be like right there. Okay? And that's good. Alright, so I'm glad I got to show you guys this because this was definitely a more challenging problem because the numbers aren't as nice. But the other problems all work the same way. You're filling in the blanks with half of the middle number squared. Then you're factoring, and then you're just answering the questions from there. So if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, I will talk to you later.